My name is Shanice Williams, and I'm about to tell you how I discovered my husband of 12 years had been living a whole other life in Atlanta, while I sat in our house in Los Angeles, thinking I was his only wife. Before I get into what happened, let me tell you something real quick. If your gut is telling you something ain't right, listen to it. Don't ignore it like I did for 2 whole years. Don't make excuses. Don't tell yourself you're being paranoid, because that little voice inside you, it knows. It always knows. I'm 38 years old now, sitting in my condo in Santa Monica, looking out at the ocean, and I still can't believe this is my life. 3 years ago, I was living in a beautiful house in View Park with a man I thought loved me. I was working as a nurse, coming home to cook dinner, doing laundry, planning our future. I was being a wife, a good wife, the kind of wife my mama raised me to be. And all that time, he had a whole other woman, whole other kids, a whole other life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, because you need to understand how good of a liar Darnell Thompson really was. I met Darnell when I was 24 years old, fresh out of nursing school with my BSN from Charles R. Drew University. I was young, excited about life, ready to take on the world. I had just gotten hired at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, working in the ICU. Intense work, long hours. But I loved it. I loved helping people. I loved being there for patients in their darkest moments. It was June 2006, Juneteenth to be exact. My best friend Keisha dragged me to this big barbecue in LeMarin Park. I didn't even want to go, to be honest. I had worked a double shift the night before, and I was exhausted. All I wanted to do was lay on my couch and watch reruns of Girlfriends and eat Chinese food. But Keisha wasn't having it. "Girl, you've been working non-stop for 3 months," she said, standing in my doorway with her hands on her hips. "You need to get out, see some people, have some fun. When's the last time you even talked to a man?" I rolled my eyes. I talk to men every day at work. Old, sick men don't count, Shanice. So I went. I put on a cute sundress, did my hair, threw on some lip gloss, and followed Keisha to Leimert Park. The barbecue was packed. There must have been 200 people there. Families, kids running around, people playing spades at folding tables. Somebody's uncle manning 3 different grills at once. The smell of ribs and hot links and barbecue chicken filled the air. Someone had a DJ set up, playing old-school R&B. I'm talking Luther Vandross, Anita Baker, Frankie Beverly, and Maze. It was a whole vibe. I was standing in line for a plate when I felt someone tap my shoulder. "Excuse me, miss, but I think you dropped this." I turned around and there he was, Darnell Thompson, 6'2", smooth dark skin, waves in his hair so deep you could surf on them, and a smile that made my knees literally go weak. He was holding out my phone. I didn't even realize I dropped it. "Oh my God, thank you," I said, taking it from him. Our fingers touched, and I swear I felt electricity. "No problem," he said, still smiling. "I'm Darnell." "Shanice, that's a beautiful name. Almost as beautiful as you." Now I should tell you, I'm not the type of woman who falls for corny pickup lines. I've heard them all working in hospitals. Doctors, patients' sons, even a few patients themselves trying their luck. It's something about the way Darnell said it, with this confidence but also this sweetness. It worked on me. We ended up talking for 3 hours straight. He told me he worked as a pharmaceutical sales rep for Pfizer, that he'd just moved to LA from Chicago 6 months ago, that he was close to his family but wanted to build his own life out here. He asked about my job, and actually listened when I told him about it. He didn't do that thing some men do, where they just wait for you to stop talking so they can talk about themselves again. He asked real questions. What made you want to be a nurse? What's the hardest part of your job? How do you deal with losing patients? By the end of the night, I had his number saved in my phone and butterflies in my stomach, like I was 16 years old again. We went on our first date 3 days later. He took me to Roscoe's House of Chicken and Waffles. Nothing too fancy, but it was perfect. We sat in that booth for 4 hours, talking and laughing until the waitress had to ask us to leave because they were closing. From that point on, we were inseparable. Darnell was everything I thought I wanted in a man. He was ambitious, working his way up at Pfizer, making good money. He was fine. I mean, the man looked like he could be in somebody's magazine. He was funny, always making me laugh, even after a hard day at work. He was romantic, showing up at the hospital with flowers, leaving sweet notes on my car windshield, sending me good morning texts every single day. Most importantly, he treated me like a queen. He opened doors, pulled out chairs, asked about my day, and actually cared about the answer. When I was stressed about work, he'd run me a bath and cook dinner. When I was happy, he celebrated with me. When I was sad, he held me. My mama loved him. My daddy loved him. Keisha loved him. Everybody loved Darnell. We dated for 2 years, and in those 2 years, I never saw a single red flag. Not one. He was perfect. We were perfect. In August 2008, Darnell proposed to me. We were at Santa Monica Pier, watching the sunset. He got down on one knee right there by the Ferris wheel, pulled out a ring, not huge, but beautiful, with a princess-cut diamond that caught the light just right, and asked me to be his wife. I said yes before he even finished the question. We got married 6 months later, in January 2009. It was a beautiful wedding at this venue in Malibu, right on the beach. My mama cried walking me down the aisle because my daddy had passed away the year before from a heart attack. Darnell's whole family came from Chicago. His mama, his daddy, his 2 brothers, his sister, his cousins, everybody. There must have been 150 people there. I wore my grandmother's pearls. Darnell wore a black tuxedo and cried when he saw me. We said our vows as the sun set over the Pacific Ocean. We danced to Adore by Prince. We fed each other cake and smashed it in each other's faces like silly kids. It was the happiest day of my life. We honeymooned in Hawaii for a week, Maui. We stayed at this resort right on the beach, spent our days swimming and snorkeling, our nights making love and talking about our future. We wanted kids, at least 3, we said. A house with a big backyard, maybe a dog. We wanted to travel the world together. We wanted to grow old together. We wanted forever. And for a while, it really seemed like we were going to get it. We moved into a small apartment in Inglewood at first, saving money so we could buy a house. I was working full-time at the hospital, pulling 12-hour shifts 3 to 4 times a week. Darnell was crushing it at Pfizer, getting promotion after promotion, his salary climbing higher and higher. By 2011, we had saved enough for a down payment on a house. We found a beautiful 4-bedroom in View Park. Hardwood floors, granite countertops, a big backyard perfect for the kids we were planning to have. We were so excited. This was our dream coming true. We moved in on a Saturday in March. Our families came to help us unpack. Darnell's daddy helped him set up the flat-screen TV in the living room. My mama helped me organize the kitchen. Keisha came with her boyfriend at the time, and they helped us paint the guest bedroom. That night, after everyone left, Darnell and I sat on the floor of our empty living room, surrounded by boxes, eating pizza straight from the box. "We did it, baby," he said, kissing my forehead. "This is ours. Our house. Our life. I love you so much," I told him. "I love you more," he said back. Looking back now, I wonder if he meant it. I wonder if he ever really meant any of it, or if I was just convenient. A good woman to come home to in LA while he was building a whole other life somewhere else. But at the time, I believed every word. We started trying for kids right away. I was 28, he was 30, and we both wanted to be young parents. We wanted energy to run around with our kids, to play sports with them, to really be present. Month after month, I took pregnancy tests. Month after month, they came back negative. At first, I wasn't worried. "It'll happen when it's supposed to happen," my mama told me. "Relax, stop stressing, and it'll happen." But after a year of trying with no results, I started to worry. I went to see a fertility specialist. They ran tests. So many tests. Blood work, ultrasounds, HSG tests that hurt so bad I cried in the examination room. The diagnosis came back when I was 29. Unexplained infertility. My eggs were fine. My uterus was fine. Everything looked normal. But for some reason, I just wasn't getting pregnant. "We can try IVF," the doctor said gently. "You're a good candidate for it." IVF, in vitro fertilization, the thing you see in movies, where they harvest your eggs and fertilize them in a lab and implant them back in your uterus and pray they stick. It's expensive. It's painful. It's emotionally exhausting. But I wanted a baby. I wanted to give Darnell a child. I wanted to be a mother more than I wanted almost anything in the world. So we tried. The first round of IVF was in 2012. They put me on hormones that made me gain weight and cry at commercials and feel crazy. They retrieved my eggs, 15 of them. They fertilized 12. They implanted 2 embryos and we waited. 2 weeks later, I took a pregnancy test. Negative. I cried for 3 days straight. Darnell held me every night, telling me it was okay, that we'd try again, that we had time. We tried again 6 months later. This time, they retrieved 18 eggs, fertilized 16, implanted 2. 2 weeks later, negative. More tears, more heartbreak. The third time was in 2014. I was 32 years old and starting to lose hope. My body was exhausted from the hormones. My heart was exhausted from the disappointment. My bank account was exhausted from the bills. Each round of IVF cost us $15,000, and insurance didn't cover most of it. They retrieved 20 eggs that time, fertilized 18, implanted 3 embryos, hoping that more would increase our chances. 2 weeks later, negative. I remember sitting on the bathroom floor, holding that pregnancy test, sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. Darnell found me there an hour later. He picked me up, carried me to bed, held me while I cried. "Maybe it's not meant to be," he said softly. "Maybe God has a different plan for us." "I wanted to be a mother," I whispered. "I know, baby, I know. Don't you want kids?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I want you. You're enough for me, Shanice. You've always been enough." Those words should have comforted me. At the time, they did. I thought he was being supportive, telling me that I was more important than having children. Now I know the truth. He wasn't being noble. He already had kids. He already had the family he wanted. He just had them with someone else. After the third failed IVF, we stopped trying. I couldn't take it anymore. The physical pain, the emotional roller coaster, the financial strain. We decided we'd look into adoption eventually, but for now, we'd just focus on being a strong couple. And for a while, we were. We traveled. We went to Jamaica, Mexico, New York. We had date nights every week. Movies, dinners, concerts. We hosted Thanksgiving and Christmas at our house. We were the couple that everyone looked up to, the ones who seemed to have it all figured out. But behind closed doors, something was shifting. I couldn't put my finger on it at first. It was subtle. Little things that didn't quite add up. In 2015, Darnell got promoted to senior sales representative. It was a big deal. More money, more responsibility. I was so proud of him. We celebrated with a fancy dinner at Mastra's Steakhouse in Beverly Hills. He ordered the most expensive bottle of wine on the menu. "This is just the beginning, baby," he told me, holding my hand across the table. "I'm going to make regional director before I'm 40. We're going to have everything we ever dreamed of." "We already have everything we need," I said. "We have each other." He smiled, but looking back, it didn't quite reach his eyes. A few months later, he got promoted again. Regional Sales Director. It meant overseeing the entire Southwest region, California, Nevada, Arizona. It also meant more travel. "I'm going to have to spend some time in our different territories," he explained one night over dinner. "Probably a week or two every month in Vegas, Phoenix, maybe some time in San Diego." "A week or two every month," I repeated, my heart sinking. "That's a lot of time away." "I know, baby, but this is a huge opportunity for us. The salary increase alone is $50,000 a year, plus bonuses, plus stock options. We're talking about setting ourselves up for early retirement." He painted such a pretty picture. How could I argue with that? So I didn't. I supported him. I kissed him goodbye when he left for his business trips. I called him every night when he was gone. I trusted him completely. That trust was the biggest mistake of my life. At first, the travel was manageable. He'd be gone for 3 or 4 days, then home for a week and a half. We'd have time to reconnect, to be a couple again. But by 2016, the trips got longer. A week at a time, then 10 days. By 2017, he was gone more than he was home. "They're opening a new regional office in Atlanta," he told me in early 2017. "Corporate needs someone to oversee the setup and train the new team. They want me." Atlanta? That's all the way across the country. I know, but it's temporary. Maybe 6 months. A year at most. And then I'll be back to normal travel. Plus, the bonus for this project is insane, baby. We're talking about enough money to pay off the house. 6 months turned into a year. A year turned into 2 years. By 2018, Darnell was spending half of every month in Atlanta. And that's when things started to feel really wrong. The FaceTime calls became shorter and less frequent. Before, when he traveled, he'd call me every night. We'd talk for an hour, sometimes 2. He'd tell me about his day, ask about mine, say how much he missed me. But in 2018, the calls became rushed. 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops. "Baby, I'm exhausted. Can we talk tomorrow?" "Baby, I have an early morning meeting. I need to get some sleep." "Baby, the hotel Wi-Fi is terrible. I'll call you when I'm back in my room." Tomorrow would come, and he wouldn't call. The early morning meeting would somehow last all day. The Wi-Fi would be bad for days at a time. His text messages changed too. Before, he'd send me long, sweet messages throughout the day. "Good morning, beautiful. Hope you have an amazing day. Can't wait to talk to you tonight. Just thinking about you and that smile of yours. I'm so lucky to have you. Counting down the days until I'm home and can hold you again." But in 2018, his texts became short and cold. Morning. At work. Talk later. No emojis, no affection. Nothing. When he did come home, he seemed distracted. He'd be on his phone constantly, texting and smiling at the screen. When I'd ask who he was talking to, he'd say, "Just work stuff," or "just coordinating with the team." One evening, I was sitting next to him on the couch while he scrolled through his phone. He was smiling at something, this soft, private smile I used to think was reserved for me. "What's so funny?" I asked. He quickly locked his phone and put it face down on his lap. "Nothing. Just a meme one of the guys from work sent." "Can I see?" "It's not that funny. You had to be there." That was new. We used to share everything. Every funny video, every joke, every random thought. Now he was keeping his phone locked and his messages private. He started sleeping with his phone under his pillow. He changed his passcode and wouldn't tell me what it was. When I asked why, he got defensive. "Why do you need to know my passcode, Shanice? You don't trust me?" "It's not about trust, Darnell. We've always known each other's passcodes. Why the sudden change?" "I just want some privacy. That's not a crime." Privacy. We'd been married almost 10 years, and suddenly he needed privacy from me. Then there was the social media situation. Darnell had never been big on social media. He had Facebook and Instagram, but he rarely posted. Maybe once every few months, a picture of his food, a motivational quote, something from work. But I noticed in 2018 that he stopped tagging me in things. He stopped posting pictures of us. Our anniversary came and went in January. 10 years married, and he didn't post anything. Not a single thing. I posted a whole collage, pictures from our wedding, from our honeymoon, from trips we'd taken over the years. I wrote this long caption about how blessed I was to have him, how he was my best friend. I couldn't imagine life without him. He liked it. He commented, "Love you, baby," with a heart emoji. But that was it. No post of his own, no declaration of love, no celebration of a decade together. Meanwhile, I noticed he had a second Instagram account. It showed up in my suggested follows one day, his name but with ATL at the end. The account was private. When I asked him about it, he said it was for work. "I have to keep my professional contacts separate from my personal life," he explained. "It's more appropriate that way. You know how corporate is about social media these days." That made sense, so I didn't push it. But then in July 2018, Keisha called me. "Girl, we need to talk," she said, her voice serious in a way that made my stomach drop. "What's wrong?" "Meet me at Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza in an hour, Nordstrom coffee shop." My heart started racing. Keisha only used that tone when something was really wrong. I met her at the mall. She was already there, sitting at a table in the corner, 2 coffees waiting. Her face was tight, worried. She had her phone in her hand, and she looked like she'd been crying. "What's going on?" I asked, sitting down across from her. She slid her phone across the table without saying a word. "I found Darnell's work Instagram account." "Okay," I said, confused. "He told me about that. It's for professional stuff." "Shanice, just look." I picked up the phone, and my whole world tilted sideways. There were pictures of Darnell, but not Darnell at work conferences, not Darnell at business dinners, not Darnell doing anything that looked remotely professional. These were family pictures. Darnell at a park, pushing a little girl on a swing. Her hair was in 2 puffballs, tied with pink ribbons, and she was laughing, her mouth open wide, showing missing front teeth. Darnell at a restaurant, holding a baby boy who couldn't have been more than a year old. The baby had chubby cheeks and was grabbing Darnell's nose. Darnell at what looked like someone's backyard barbecue, his arm around a woman's waist. She was light-skinned, with long, straight weave that went past her shoulders, a pretty smile. Curves in all the right places. She was leaning into him like she belonged there. Darnell at the beach, the same woman beside him, the little girl building a sandcastle in front of them. the baby on a blanket in the shade. And in every single picture, there was love. You could see it. The way he looked at them, the way they looked at him, the way his hand rested on the small of the woman's back, the way the little girl reached for him, the way the baby smiled at him. The captions made my stomach turn. My beautiful family. Blessed beyond measure. Everything I ever need is right here. Family day at Piedmont Park. My whole world in one picture. Sunday fun day with my loves. I couldn't breathe. The coffee shop started spinning around me. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself, but my hands were shaking so bad, I knocked over one of the coffees. It spilled across the table, dripping onto the floor, but I couldn't move to clean it up. "Shanice, breathe," Keisha said, reaching across the table to grab my hand. "Breathe, honey." "Who is she?" I whispered. Keisha had already done her detective work. She'd spent half the night going through social media, like the FBI agent she should have been. She clicked on the woman's profile. Her name was Jasmine Carter. Her Instagram was public, completely public, no privacy settings at all. And according to her bio, she was a blessed mama of 2 and living my best life with my favorite people. Her location was set to Atlanta, Georgia. I scrolled through Jasmine's page with shaking hands. There were hundreds of pictures. Hundreds. Pictures of her with the kids. The little girl was named Destiny. The baby was Cameron, based on the captions. Pictures of her and Darnell at restaurants, holding hands across candlelit tables. Pictures of them at movies, his arm around her shoulder. Pictures of them at children's birthday parties, both of them wearing party hats and silly smiles. Pictures of what looked like family gatherings. Older people who must have been her parents. Younger people who looked like siblings. Everyone laughing and eating and celebrating together. And Darnell was in so many of them, fitting right in like he'd always been part of the family. In one picture from Christmas 2017, they were all wearing matching pajamas. Darnell, Jasmine, Destiny, and baby Cameron, sitting in front of a Christmas tree in what looked like a living room. A living room I'd never seen before. A home I didn't know existed. The tree was huge, decorated with red and gold ornaments. Presents were stacked underneath. Destiny was sitting on Darnell's lap, holding what looked like a new doll. Cameron was in Jasmine's arms, chewing on a teething ring. They all looked so happy, so complete, so much like a family. "This can't be real," I said, but my voice sounded far away, like it was coming from someone else. "This has to be a mistake. Maybe it's his brother's kids. Maybe that's his sister-in-law, or something. Maybe they're just really close family friends, and the captions are misleading." "Shanice," Keisha's voice was gentle but firm. She reached over and scrolled to a different picture. "Look at the dates on these pictures. Some of them go back years. And read some of Jasmine's captions. Really read them." I clicked on a picture from May 2016. It was Darnell and Jasmine at what looked like a nice restaurant. White tablecloths, candles, wine glasses. They were dressed up. She was wearing a red dress that showed off her figure. He was wearing the blue button-down shirt I'd bought him for Christmas that year. They were holding hands across the table, both of them smiling at the camera. The caption read, "Date night with my love. 3 years together and he still gives me butterflies. Thank you for choosing me every single day, baby." 3 years. In May 2016, that would mean they'd been together since 2013. All up starts 2013. We got married in 2009. By 2013, we'd been married for 4 years. I scrolled to another picture. This one was from September 2015. Jasmine was clearly pregnant, her belly round under a flowing dress. Darnell was kneeling in front of her, his hands on her stomach, looking up at her with the biggest smile I'd ever seen on his face. The caption, "Baby girl is coming soon. Can't wait to meet our little destiny. Daddy is already so in love with you." The same year I was going through my second round of IVF. Same year I was pumping my body full of hormones and crying every night because the treatments weren't working. The same year Darnell was holding me and telling me it was okay, that we didn't need kids to be happy. He was already going to be a father. He just wasn't going to be one with me. I started crying right there in the Nordstrom coffee shop. Big, ugly, heaving sobs that made people at other tables turn and stare. I didn't care. My entire life was falling apart, and strangers staring at me was the least of my problems. Keisha came around the table and pulled me into her arms, holding me while I fell apart. "I'm so sorry," she kept saying. "I'm so sorry, Shanice." "How long have you known?" I managed to ask when I could finally speak. "I just found this last night. I was scrolling through Instagram before bed, and his work account popped up in my suggested accounts. You know how Instagram does that algorithm thing. I clicked on it because I was curious what he was posting for work, and I saw all this. I couldn't sleep all night. I wanted to tell you right away, but I didn't want to do it over the phone. I swear, if I'd known earlier, I would have told you immediately." I believed her. Keisha and I had been best friends since we were 13 years old. She would never keep something like this from me. She was the one who'd been there for every heartbreak, every celebration, every major moment in my life. She loved me like a sister. "What do?" I asked her, my voice breaking. "You confront him. You demand the truth, every bit of it, and then you leave his lying, cheating ass and take him for everything he's got." But I didn't. Not right away. Because I was scared. Terrified, actually. Scared of what the truth might be. Scared of losing my marriage, my life, everything I'd built with Darnell. Scared of being alone at 36 years old, starting over from scratch. Scared of admitting that the last 12 years of my life had been built on lies. So I did what a lot of women do when they're faced with something they don't want to believe. I made excuses. I created explanations that would let me keep living in my comfortable delusion a little bit longer. Maybe those were his brother's kids and Jasmine was his sister-in-law, and the captions were just poorly worded. Maybe it was some kind of inside joke that I didn't understand. Maybe the account was fake, someone trying to ruin Darnell's reputation. Maybe there was a perfectly reasonable explanation for all of it. Deep down, I knew there wasn't. Deep down, I knew exactly what was happening. But admitting it would mean my whole life was a lie. And I wasn't ready to face that yet. For 2 weeks, I walked around like a zombie. I went to work at the hospital, came home, need dinner, watched TV, went to bed. I moved through my life on autopilot, going through the motions while my mind raced with questions I was too afraid to ask. Darnell called me from Atlanta during those 2 weeks, just like always. We'd talk for a few minutes, short conversations, nothing deep, just checking in. And every time, I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to demand answers. I wanted to tell him I knew everything. But I didn't. I played along. I said, "I love you," when he said it first. I asked about his day. I told him about mine. I pretended everything was normal. He had no idea I knew anything. No idea his two worlds were about to collide. I studied those Instagram pictures every night after Darnell and I hung up the phone. I memorized every detail. The way Jasmine's hand fit in his, the way Destiny's eyes lit up when she looked at him, the way baby Cameron reached for him in one video Jasmine had posted, saying, "Dada, clear as day." These kids knew him. They loved him. He wasn't just some man posing for pictures with random children. He was their daddy, their father. The man who tucked them in at night and read them bedtime stories and kissed their breeboos when they got hurt. And Jasmine wasn't some side chick he saw occasionally when he was in town for work. She was his woman, his partner, the mother of his children, the person he came home to every night when he was in Atlanta. She thought he was hers, completely hers, just like I thought he was mine. The thought that broke me more than anything else was this. Was this why? Was I not enough because I couldn't have his babies? Did he find someone who could give him the family I couldn't, and decide to build a life with her instead? That thought made me cry harder than anything else. It made me feel worthless, broken, like I'd failed at the one thing women are supposed to be able to do. I know now that's not true. I know now that my value isn't determined by my ability to have children. I know now that what Darnell did had nothing to do with me and everything to do with him being a selfish, lying coward. But at the time, all I could think was, I wasn't enough. I couldn't give him what he wanted, so he found someone who could. 3 weeks after Keisha showed me those pictures, Darnell came home from Atlanta. It was a Friday night in late August, hot and sticky even after the sun went down. He'd been gone for 11 days this time. I picked him up from LAX like I always did. He came out of the terminal with his carry-on bag, looking tired but happy to see me. He kissed me when he got in the car, a quick peck on the lips. Nothing passionate, nothing that made me feel like he'd missed me. "How was your flight?" I asked, pulling out of the pickup area. "Long. I'm exhausted. How was your week?" "Fine. Same old stuff. Work was busy." "Yeah? How are things in the ICU?" "Good. We had a patient code twice, but we got him back both times." "How's the Atlanta office coming along?" "Good, good. We're making progress. Should be wrapping up in the next few months." Lies. Such easy, casual lies. He'd been telling them for so long, they probably didn't even feel like lies anymore. They were just his reality. 2 separate realities that he kept carefully divided. We got home and he went straight to the shower like he always did after a flight. Said he felt gross from the recycled airplane air. While the water was running, I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the bathroom door. His phone was sitting on the nightstand, charging. He'd left it there when he went to shower, which he never did anymore. For the past few months, he'd been taking it everywhere. To the bathroom, to the kitchen when he got a glass of water, even out to the mailbox. That phone was attached to him like a third arm. But tonight he'd left it. Maybe he was tired. Maybe he was getting careless. Maybe some part of him wanted to get caught. My hands were shaking as I picked it up. The screen lit up with notifications. 3 text messages from J Baby with heart emojis next to the name. But of course, it was password protected. I tried his old passcode, 0824, my birthday, August 24th, the one he'd used for years. Invalid password. I tried his birthday, 1206, December 6th. Invalid password. I tried our anniversary, 0115, January 15th, the day we got married. Invalid password. I stood there, holding his phone, trying to think. What would he use as a passcode? It had to be something important to him. Something he wouldn't forget. And then it hit me. I tried 0305, March 5th, Destiny's birthday. I'd seen it on one of Jasmine's Instagram posts from her daughter's 4th birthday party, just a few months ago. The phone unlocked. My stomach dropped to my feet. He'd changed his passcode to his daughter's birthday, a daughter I didn't even know existed until 3 weeks ago. A daughter whose name I'd only learned from stalking her mother's Instagram page. That told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't just some kid. She was his kid. His priority. Important enough to be his password. And I wasn't. I went straight to his messages, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might have a heart attack right there in our bedroom. There were dozens of text threads, but the one from J Baby was at the top. I clicked on it and started reading. Baby, Destiny is asking when you're coming home. She misses her daddy. Cameron took 3 steps today. I wish you'd been here to see it. I took a video though. I miss you so much. The bed feels empty without you. Hurry home. I scrolled up reading more messages. Months and months of conversations. Years probably, though I couldn't bring myself to scroll back that far. Can you pick up diapers on your way home? We're almost out and I don't want to take both kids to the store. Destiny's preschool is having a dad day next week. Will you be back in time? She really wants you there. I love you. I'm so lucky to have you. And Darnell's responses. Tell Destiny I'll be home Sunday. We can go to the zoo like I promised. Send me the video. I can't believe my boy is walking already. I miss you too, baby. Just a few more days. I'll grab diapers. What else do we need? I'll make sure I'm there. Wouldn't miss it for the world. I love you more. You're my everything. The same things he used to say to me. The same pet names. Baby. The same promises, I'll be there. The same declarations of love. But now they were for her. For them. For his real family. I kept scrolling, unable to stop, even though every message felt like a knife in my chest. I went back further and further, watching their relationship unfold in reverse. Messages from after Cameron was born. He's perfect. You're perfect. I can't believe we made something so beautiful. Messages from when Jasmine was pregnant. How are you feeling today, Mama? Is my little man treating you okay in there? Messages from when they first found out she was pregnant again. We're having a boy. Destiny is going to be a big sister. And then I found messages from 2014, back when Jasmine was pregnant with Destiny. I can't wait to meet our daughter. I'm going to be the best daddy ever, I promise. Have you thought more about names? I really like Destiny. It feels like she was meant to be. I love you so much. Thank you for giving me this gift. You've made me the happiest man alive. We'd been married for 5 years by then. I was 32 years old, going through my 3rd and final round of IVF, crying myself to sleep every night when it failed. And he was texting another woman, celebrating the pregnancy I couldn't give him. I heard the shower turn off. Panic shot through me. I quickly put the phone back on the nightstand, exactly where I'd found it, screen locked, charging cable plugged in. Darnell came out 10 minutes later, a towel wrapped around his waist. Water still dripping from his hair. He smelled like the fancy soap I'd bought him, the one that cost $30 a bottle, because he said the cheap stuff dried out his skin. You okay, baby? He asked, noticing the expression on my face. You look upset. I'm fine. I lied, the word tasting bitter in my mouth. Just tired from work. He sat down next to me on the bed, still damp from the shower, and put his arm around me. Come here. Let me hold you. I wanted to vomit. I wanted to push him away, to scream, to throw his phone at his head and watch him try to explain. I wanted to hurt him the way he was hurting me. But I didn't. I let him hold me. I let him kiss my forehead. I let him whisper, I love you, in my ear like he meant it. Because I still wasn't ready. I still didn't have the strength to blow up my entire life. That night, after Darnell fell asleep, snoring softly, one arm thrown over his head, completely at peace, I went into the bathroom and cried as quietly as I could. I looked at myself in the mirror, mascara running down my face, eyes red and swollen, and I didn't recognize the woman staring back at me. Who was I? What had I become? How had I let myself get to this point? I was a woman who knew her husband had another family and was too scared to do anything about it. I was a woman who was lying in bed next to a man who'd been lying to her for years. I was a woman who'd lost herself somewhere along the way. I called Keisha from the bathroom, sitting on the closed toilet lid with my phone pressed to my ear. It was 2 in the morning, but she answered on the first ring. Shanice? What's wrong? He has a whole family, I whispered, trying not to wake Darnell. The kids are his, Keisha. Those are his children. That woman, Jasmine. She's not just some girlfriend. She's his whole life in Atlanta. Oh, honey, I read their messages. Years of messages. He talks to her the exact same way he talks to me. He calls her baby. He tells her he loves her. He sends her money. He tucks their kids into bed over FaceTime when he's here with me in LA. He's living 2 complete lives, and neither one of us knew about the other. What are you gonna do? I don't know, I said, fresh tears streaming down my face. I don't know anything anymore. You have to confront him, Shanice. You can't keep living like this. It's going to destroy you. It already is destroying me. Then end it. Rip off the Band-Aid. Demand the truth. But what if... I stopped, not sure how to finish the sentence. What if he chooses her? What if he's been waiting for an excuse to leave me? What if I've wasted 12 years of my life on a man who never really loved me? What if nothing? Keisha said firmly. You deserve better than this. You deserve a man who chooses you, completely and honestly. You deserve the truth, even if it hurts. Especially if it hurts. I need to see it, I said suddenly, the idea forming as I spoke. I need to see them together. I need to see this other life he's living. I need to see it with my own eyes before I can believe it's real. What do you mean? I'm going to Atlanta. When he goes back for his next trip, I'm going to follow him. I'm going to see this family he has. I'm going to see him with them. I need to see the whole truth before I can figure out what to do next. Keisha was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Okay, then I'm coming with you. You're not doing this alone. Keisha, you don't have to. I'm coming. That's final. You're my best friend. You think I'm going to let you fly across the country to catch your cheating husband by yourself? Please, I'll be there. We'll do this together. I started crying again, but this time it wasn't just from pain. It was from gratitude, from love, from knowing that even when my marriage was falling apart, I had someone in my corner. Thank you, I whispered. That's what sisters do. That's what sisters do. Brave is content. 2 weeks later, on a Friday morning in early September, Darnell kissed me goodbye at our front door. His suitcase in one hand, his phone in the other. I'll call you when I land, he said, like he always did. Be safe, I replied, like I always did. I watched him drive away in his BMW, watched him turn the corner and disappear from view. I stood there for a full minute after he was gone, my hand still on the doorknob, my heart racing. Then I called Keisha. He just left. I'm 10 minutes away. I had already packed a small suitcase, enough clothes for a few days, my toiletries, my phone charger. I'd told Darnell I was going to spend the weekend with my cousin Denise up in Oakland. Just a girl's trip to get away from the stress of work. He'd barely reacted, just said, "Have fun, baby," and kissed me goodbye. Another lie in the mountain of lies our marriage had become. I'd also requested 4 days off from work, telling my supervisor I had a family emergency I needed to deal with. My supervisor, Linda, a woman in her 50s who'd been a nurse longer than I'd been alive, had looked at me with knowing eyes. "Is everything okay, Shanice?" she asked. "Not really, but it will be. I just need a few days. Take whatever time you need, honey. Family comes first." If only she knew. Keisha pulled up in her Honda Accord exactly 10 minutes later. I locked up the house, my house, the one I'd lived in for 7 years, the one that suddenly felt like a stranger's home, and got in her car. We drove to LAX in silence. What was there to say? We both knew what I was about to do. We both knew it was going to hurt. I'd booked us tickets on a flight that left 2 hours after Darnell's. Close enough that he wouldn't be too far ahead of us, but far enough that we wouldn't run into him at the airport. The flight from LA to Atlanta is about 4.5 hours. I didn't sleep. Couldn't sleep. I just stared out the window, at the clouds, at the country passing beneath us, thinking about how I'd gotten here. How does a marriage fall apart without you noticing? How does the man you love become a stranger? How does he build an entire secret life without you having a clue? The answer, I was learning, was slowly, gradually, one lie at a time. One unexplained late night, one mysterious phone call, one business trip that went on too long. The signs were probably there all along. I just didn't want to see them. We landed in Atlanta at 6:15 p.m. local time. The airport was huge and busy. People everywhere. The humidity hitting me like a wall when we stepped outside to get our rental car. Keisha had rented us a plain gray Toyota Camry. Nothing flashy, nothing that would stand out. Something we could follow Darnell in without him noticing. I already had Jasmine's address. I'd found it weeks ago from her Instagram posts. She'd tagged her location as home enough times that I was able to figure out the exact address. She posted pictures of her front yard, her mailbox with the numbers visible, her street sign in the background. People really need to be more careful about what they share online. Cascade Heights, a nice neighborhood in southwest Atlanta. The kind of place where young Black families were building lives, where kids rode bikes in the street and neighbors knew each other's names. The kind of place where Darnell had told me years ago that he wanted to raise our kids someday. Except he was already raising his kids here, just not with me. We drove through the neighborhood as the sun was setting, painting everything gold and orange. It was beautiful. Big houses with manicured lawns, mature oak trees lining the streets, flower beds full of late summer blooms. Kids were playing outside, riding bikes and scooters. A man was washing his car in his driveway. A woman was walking her dog. Normal people living normal lives. And somewhere in this neighborhood, my husband was living his secret life. That's it, I said, pointing to a 2-story brick house with a white picket fence. Number 4237. It was beautiful. Bigger than our house in LA, actually. Nicer yard. A swing set in the back that I could just see over the fence. A basketball hoop in the driveway. Flower boxes under the front windows bursting with pink and purple petunias. It looked like a home. A real home where a family lived and loved and grew together. And parked in that driveway was a silver Honda Pilot. That's not his car, Keisha said. No. Darnell drove a black BMW 5 Series. I'd never seen this Honda before in my life. But I knew, somehow, that it was his other car, for his other life. The family car for when he needed to haul kids and groceries and all the stuff that comes with being a father. Park here, I said, pointing to a spot about 3 houses down across the street. Far enough that we wouldn't be immediately obvious, close enough that we could see everything. We sat there in silence, the car engine ticking as it cooled down, the air conditioning still blowing even though I'd turned the car off. Now what? Keisha asked quietly. Now we wait. We sat there for an hour. The sun finished setting. The streetlights came on, casting everything in a soft yellow glow. Lights turned on inside houses, up and down the street. I could hear children laughing, music playing, life happening all around us. And then, at 7:45 p.m., the front door of number 4237 opened. Darnell walked out. My breath caught in my throat. There he was, my husband, the man I'd loved for 12 years, the man I built a life with. But he wasn't alone. He was carrying a little girl in his arms. She was wearing pink pajamas with unicorns on them, her hair done up in 2 braids with beads on the ends that clicked together when she moved her head. She was laughing at something he was saying, her small arms wrapped tight around his neck. Destiny, his daughter, 4 years old, a whole person who existed because of him. Behind them came Jasmine, holding a baby boy on her hip. She was wearing sweatpants and an oversized t-shirt, her long weave pulled back in a ponytail, looking casual and comfortable and completely at ease. Like this was just a normal Friday night. Like she was just taking her family out for the evening. Cameron, his son, 1 year old, learning to walk, saying, "Dada." They all got into the Honda Pilot. Darnell opened the back door and put Destiny in her car seat, a pink one with a cup holder and a spot for her stuffed animals. He was so gentle with her, buckling her in carefully, making sure the straps weren't twisted, kissing her forehead before closing the door. Then he opened the other back door for Jasmine, who was wrestling with Cameron, trying to get his chubby legs into his car seat while he squirmed and reached for Darnell. "Dada," I could hear him say even from across the street. "Dada." "I know, buddy. Hold on," Darnell said, laughing. He took Cameron from Jasmine and buckled him in himself, making silly faces at the baby to keep him happy. Then he closed the door, walked around to the driver's side and got in. Jasmine got in the passenger seat. They looked like any other family heading out for dinner. Happy, normal, together. Except they were my husband's family, the family I didn't know about. "Oh my God," Keisha whispered beside me. "Shanice, I'm so sorry. I couldn't speak, couldn't move." I just watched as Darnell backed out of the driveway, Jasmine saying something to him that made him laugh, the kids in the back probably chattering away like kids do. "Follow them," I finally managed to say, my voice sounding hollow and distant. Keisha started the car and we followed at a safe distance, not too close, but close enough that we wouldn't lose them. They drove for about 10 minutes, through neighborhoods that got progressively more commercial, until they pulled into the parking lot of a Chuck E. Cheese. Of course, Friday night, kids in pajamas, family outing. They were probably making it a special treat. We parked several spots away and watched as they all got out. Darnell unbuckled Destiny first, lifting her out and setting her down on the pavement. She immediately started jumping up and down, excited about the arcade games and pizza and all the things kids love about Chuck E. Cheese. Then he got Cameron out, holding the baby on his hip while Jasmine grabbed the diaper bag from the back. They walked toward the entrance, Destiny holding Darnell's free hand, skipping and talking a mile a minute. Jasmine had her arm looped through his other arm. They looked perfect, complete. "You want to go in?" Keisha asked. "No, let's just watch from here." The restaurant had big windows, and we could see inside perfectly. We watched as they got a table, one of those booth ones with the high chairs attached. Darnell put Cameron in the high chair, while Jasmine got Destiny settled in the booth. Then Darnell went to order pizza and get tokens for the games. He came back carrying a plastic cup full of tokens, and Destiny's eyes lit up. She grabbed a handful and ran toward the games, and Darnell followed her, laughing. Jasmine stayed at the table with Cameron, who was banging his hands on the high chair tray and babbling happily. She was smiling, pulling out wet wipes and sippy cups from the diaper bag, looking like she'd done this 1,000 times before. Because she had. This was their routine, their normal Friday night, their life. Through the window, I watched Darnell help Destiny with skee ball, lifting her up so she could reach the lane. She got the ball in one of the high-point holes and started jumping and squealing. Darnell picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing. He looked so happy, happier than I'd seen him in years. His whole face was lit up, no stress, no distance, no phone constantly in his hand, just present. Just a dad with his daughter, having fun. They played games for a while. Basketball hoops, whack-a-mole, those racing games where you sit in the little car. Every time Destiny won tickets, she'd run back to the table to show Jasmine, who'd make a big deal about it and put them in a plastic bag she'd brought. Then the pizza came. They all sat in the booth. Darnell on one side, Jasmine and Destiny on the other, Cameron in his high chair at the end. Darnell was feeding Cameron little bites of cheese off the pizza, making airplane noises to get him to open his mouth. Jasmine was helping Destiny cut her pizza into smaller pieces. They looked like every other family in that restaurant. Mom, dad, 2 kids. Normal, happy, real. And that's when it really truly hit me. This wasn't an affair. This wasn't some side piece situation where Darnell was having fun on the side while his real life was with me in LA. This was his real life. This was what he came home to. This was the family he'd chosen. And I was the other woman. I was the secret he was keeping from them, not the other way around. Jasmine and those kids, they probably had no idea I existed. They thought Darnell was theirs, only theirs. A single dad who'd found love again, or a man who'd moved to Atlanta for a fresh start, or whatever story he'd told them. But I was real. I existed. I had a marriage certificate with his name on it. I had 12 years of history with him. I had been there first. And somehow, I'd become the side piece in my own marriage. I'm going to be sick, I said suddenly. Keisha drove us to a gas station 2 blocks away. I barely made it to the bathroom before I threw up everything in my stomach, which wasn't much, since I hadn't been able to eat all day. I splashed cold water on my face and looked at myself in the dirty gas station mirror. My eyes were red and swollen from crying. My face was puffy. I looked 10 years older than I was. When I came out, Keisha was waiting with a bottle of water. "You don't have to keep watching," she said gently. "We can go back to the hotel. We've seen enough." "No," I said, taking the water and drinking half of it in one go. "I need to see everything. I need to see the whole truth, no matter how much it hurts." We went back to the Chuck E. Cheese parking lot and waited. 20 minutes later, they came out. Destiny was carrying a stuffed animal, a purple rabbit she'd won from the prize counter. Cameron was asleep in Darnell's arms, his little head on Darnell's shoulder, completely passed out. They drove back to the house in Cascade Heights. We followed and parked in our same spot from earlier. I watched as Darnell carried Cameron inside, so gentle, supporting the baby's head, moving slowly so he wouldn't wake him up. Then he came back out for Destiny, who'd also fallen asleep in her car seat. He lifted her out, cradling her in his arms like she weighed nothing, and carried her inside too. The lights upstairs came on. Through the windows, I could see silhouettes moving around. Darnell and Jasmine putting the kids to bed. Bath time maybe. Pajamas. Teeth brushing. All the normal bedtime routine stuff that parents do. I wondered if he read them bedtime stories. I wondered if he tucked them in tight and kissed their foreheads and told them he loved them. Of course he did. I could tell from the way he was with them. He wasn't just going through the motions. He loved those kids, really loved them. The upstairs lights went off, one by one. Then, about 30 minutes later, lights came on downstairs. Through the living room window, I could see Darnell and Jasmine on the couch. They were snuggled up together, his arm around her shoulders, her head on his chest. The TV was on, but I don't think they were really watching it. They were just being together. Comfortable, easy, natural. He kissed the top of her head. She tilted her face up and they kissed for real. Not a quick peck, but a real kiss. The kind of kiss that says, "I love you," without words. The kind of kiss he used to give me, back when we were happy. Back before he had a whole other family to come home to. "I've seen enough," I said, my voice flat and emotionless. "Let's go." Keisha drove us to a Marriott near the airport. I didn't argue when she got us a room with 2 beds. I couldn't have been alone that night. I would have fallen apart completely. I didn't sleep. How could I? My entire world had just been destroyed. Everything I thought was real, my marriage, my life, my future, it was all fake. A lie. A game Darnell was playing with 2 women's lives. I laid in the hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, while Keisha slept in the bed next to mine. I could hear her breathing, soft and even. And I was grateful she was there, even though I felt completely alone. Around 3 in the morning, I got up and took a shower. I stood under the hot water until it ran cold, crying silently, letting the water wash away my tears so I didn't wake Keisha. When I got out, I looked at myself in the foggy mirror. I looked like a ghost. Like I'd died and no one had bothered to tell me yet. Maybe that was fitting. Darnell had killed me off in his Atlanta life, after all. Told everyone I was dead so he could have his perfect family without any messy explanations. The next morning, Saturday, Keisha woke up to find me sitting in the chair by the window, still in my bathrobe, staring at nothing. "Did you sleep at all?" I shook my head. "Shanice, baby, you need to rest. You can't. I need to go back." "What?" "I need to see more. I need to know everything. I need to see his whole life here before I can figure out what to do next." Keisha looked like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. She just got dressed and we went to get breakfast at the hotel restaurant. I couldn't eat. I ordered oatmeal and pushed it around the bowl without taking a bite. Then we drove back to Cascade Heights. Saturday morning in the suburbs. People were out mowing their lawns, walking their dogs, washing their cars. Kids were riding bikes and playing basketball. It was sunny and warm and beautiful. And I was sitting in a rental car, watching my husband live his secret life. Around 9:30, the front door of 4237 opened, and they all came out again. This time they were dressed for the day. Darnell in jeans and a t-shirt, Jasmine in a sundress, Destiny in shorts and a pink t-shirt with a unicorn on it, Cameron in little overalls. They looked like they'd stepped out of a family photo shoot. They got in the Honda Pilot and drove off. We followed again, keeping our distance. This time they went to a Kroger grocery store on Campbellton Road. We parked and watched them go in together. Darnell pushing a cart with Cameron in the seat. Destiny holding Jasmine's hand. The 4 of them looking like any other family doing their Saturday grocery shopping. "This is torture," Keisha said quietly. "You're torturing yourself, Shanice." "I know, but I have to. I have to see all of it." We waited in the parking lot for 45 minutes. When they came out, the cart was full. Bags of groceries, diapers, formula, all the stuff you need when you have little kids. Darnell loaded everything in the back while Jasmine got the kids buckled in. Then he closed the trunk, walked over to where she was standing by the passenger door, and kissed her. Right there in the Kroger parking lot, in broad daylight, not caring who saw. Because why would he care? As far as anyone in Atlanta knew, that was his wife, the mother of his children, the woman he loved. No one here knew about me. From the grocery store, they went to Piedmont Park. a huge park in Atlanta, with walking trails and playgrounds and a lake. We followed them there too, parking far enough away that they wouldn't notice us, but close enough that we could see. They found a spot under a big oak tree and spread out a blanket. Jasmine unpacked snacks from a cooler. Juice boxes, cut up fruit, those little pouches of baby food for Cameron. Darnell took Destiny to the playground and pushed her on the swings, while Jasmine stayed on the blanket with the baby. I watched Darnell with his daughter, and it broke my heart all over again. The way he pushed her on the swings. Not too high, just high enough to make her laugh. The way he caught her at the bottom of the slide. The way he let her climb all over him like a jungle gym. He was a good dad. That was clear. He loved those kids. He wasn't just pretending for Jasmine's benefit. This was real, which made it so much worse. After the park, they went home, and I knew I couldn't keep following them around like some stalker. I couldn't keep torturing myself watching Darnell play house with another woman. It was time to end this, time to confront him, time to hear him try to explain how he could do this to me, to us, to our marriage. Sunday morning, I got dressed carefully. I put on nice jeans and a blouse. I did my makeup. I put on the wedding ring he'd given me 12 years ago, the one I'd worn every single day since he slipped it on my finger. I wanted him to see it. I wanted her to see it. I wanted them both to know that I was real, that I existed, that I'd been here all along. Keisha offered to come with me to the door, but I told her no. This was something I needed to do alone. She stayed in the car, parked down the street, close enough if I needed her, but far enough to give me privacy. I walked up to that white picket fence for the second time in my life. The first time, I'd been a nurse on a mission to catch her cheating husband. Now I was a wife about to blow up two people's lives. I could hear music playing inside. Gospel music. Kirk Franklin, I thought. Someone was singing along. Jasmine's voice, sweet and clear. I heard the kids laughing. Normal Sunday morning sounds from a happy family. I took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. A few seconds later, footsteps approached. The door swung open. Jasmine stood there, wearing a church dress, navy blue with white flowers, modest and pretty. Her hair was done up nice, pinned in some kind of fancy style. She had lipstick on, pearl earrings. She looked beautiful and put together and completely unprepared for what was about to happen. She smiled at me, friendly and unsuspecting. "Hi, can I help you?" Her voice was kind, warm, the voice of someone who had no reason to be suspicious of a stranger at her door on a Sunday morning. "Hi," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, despite the fact that my heart was trying to pound its way out of my chest. "I'm looking for Darnell Thompson." "Oh yes, that's my husband," she said. And those two words, my husband, hit me like a physical blow, even though I'd been expecting them. "Is this about work?" "Because we're actually about to head to church, but if it's urgent, I can get him for you." "It's not about work," I said. "I'm Shanice. I'm his wife." The smile dropped from her face like I'd slapped it off her. All the color drained from her cheeks. Her hand gripped the door frame so hard her knuckles went white. "I'm sorry, what?" "I'm Darnell's wife," I repeated, slower this time, letting each word sink in. I held up my left hand so she could see my ring, the diamond catching the morning sunlight. "We've been married for 12 years. We live in Los Angeles. View Park, specifically. We got married in January 2009. That's not possible," she said, but her voice was shaking. She knew it was possible. Women always know, deep down, when something's wrong. We just don't always want to believe it. Behind her, I heard Darnell's voice calling from somewhere in the house. "Baby, who's at the door?" "Baby." He called her baby, the same thing he called me. He appeared behind her a moment later, and I watched his face change when he saw me standing on his doorstep in Atlanta, in front of his other house, in front of his other woman. Confusion first. What are you doing here? Then recognition. Oh shit, that's Shanice. Then pure, absolute panic. How did she find this place? Shanice, he started, but I cut him off. Don't say my name like you're surprised to see me. Don't act like I'm the one who did something wrong here. Jasmine turned to look at him, tears already forming in her eyes. Darnell, who is this woman? The little girl, Destiny, appeared at the doorway then, wearing a pretty pink dress that matched her mom's navy one. Her hair was done in perfect cornrows, with beads on the ends. Daddy, who's that? She asked, looking up at me with wide, curious eyes. Daddy. That word shattered what was left of my composure. Destiny, go back inside and watch TV for a minute, Darnell said, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. But we're supposed to go to church. Now, Destiny, he said, sharper than necessary. The little girl's face crumpled and she ran back inside, probably scared by the tone in her father's voice. Jasmine was fully crying now, tears streaming down her face, her hands shaking. Darnell, what is going on? Who is she? What is she talking about? I'm his wife, I said, again, because apparently it needed to be said multiple times before it would sink in. We got married in 2009. We live in Los Angeles together. We have a house in View Park. We've been together for 14 years total. That's impossible, Jasmine said. But she was looking at Darnell now, searching his face for the truth. Marcus, tell her she's wrong. Tell her you're not married. I can't, he said quietly. 2 words. That's all it took to confirm every worst fear Jasmine had probably been trying to ignore. You can't? She repeated, her voice rising. What do you mean you can't? I mean it's true, he said, and I almost admired him for finally telling the truth, even if it was only because he'd been caught. Shanice and I are married. We have been for 12 years. Jasmine made a sound like she'd been punched in the stomach. She grabbed the doorframe for support, her legs looking like they might give out. But you told me, she whispered. You said your wife died. You said she died giving birth 6 years ago. You said that's why you were so hesitant when I got pregnant with Destiny. You made me believe you were a widower. I felt like someone had poured ice water over my head. You told her I was dead? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Darnell wouldn't look at me, wouldn't look at either of us. He just stood there with his head down, caught in his web of lies with no way out. You killed me off in your story, I continued, my voice getting louder. You erased me from existence so you could have your perfect little family without any messy explanations. Is that right, Darnell? It's not like that. Then what is it like? I shouted. Please explain to me and Jasmine how this works. Explain how you managed to have a wife in Los Angeles and a whole entire family in Atlanta without either of us knowing about the other. Because I'd love to hear this. Jasmine stepped back from the door, pulling it wider open. You need to come inside, she said, her voice hollow. The neighbors are watching. I looked around and realized she was right. People were coming out onto their porches, standing in their driveways, pretending to check their mailboxes while they watched the drama unfolding at 4237 Cascade Drive. I stepped inside, into the home my husband had built with another woman. The living room was beautiful. Hardwood floors, nice furniture, family photos everywhere. Photos of Darnell with Jasmine, Darnell with the kids, the 4 of them together. A whole documented life that I'd never seen before. There was a photo on the mantle, a professional family portrait. All 4 of them dressed in white, sitting on a beach somewhere. Golden hour lighting making them look like a damn Hallmark card. Another photo showed Darnell and Jasmine in wedding attire. She was in a white dress. He was in a tuxedo. They were kissing while people threw rice. "When did you get married?" I asked, pointing at the photo. Jasmine followed my gaze. 3 years ago, May 2017, at the Four Seasons in downtown Atlanta. We had 100 guests. His family came, his parents, his brothers, his sister, everyone. My whole family was there too. It was the happiest day of my life. She said it like she was trying to convince herself it had been real. I turned to Darnell. "You married her, while still married to me. Do you know what that's called, Darnell? That's called bigamy. That's fraud. That's illegal. You could go to jail. The marriage isn't legal," he said quietly. "I used a fake ID. The ceremony was real, but the paperwork. You and I are still the only legal marriage." Jasmine let out a sob so loud it echoed through the house. "What? I'm sorry," he said, and he actually looked like he might cry. "I never meant for it to go this far. I never meant to hurt either of you." "Never meant to hurt us?" I repeated, incredulous. "Darnell, you've been lying to both of us for years. How exactly did you think this was going to end? Did you think you could just keep us both forever? Keep flying back and forth, living two lives, never getting caught?" He didn't answer. Jasmine had sunk down onto the couch, her head in her hands, her whole body shaking with sobs. "I don't understand. How? How did you do this?" So he explained, and with every word, I hated him more. 2 phones, one for LA, one for Atlanta, both registered under slightly different names. 2 bank accounts, separate finances kept carefully divided. 2 sets of insurance policies, car registrations, memberships, everything. His company thought he was based in Atlanta and traveled to LA for work. I thought he was based in LA and traveled to Atlanta for work. It was perfect, until it wasn't. He celebrated every holiday twice, Thanksgiving in LA, then catching a red-eye to Atlanta for Thanksgiving dinner with Jasmine's family the next day. Christmas morning with me, Christmas evening with them, birthdays, anniversaries, everything, twice. He had a storage unit in Atlanta where he kept his Atlanta clothes, his Atlanta laptop, his Atlanta life. Another storage unit in LA for the same purpose. He'd been doing this since 2014. Almost 5 years of elaborate, calculated deception. "Why?" Jasmine asked, her voice breaking. "If you wanted to be with me, why didn't you just divorce her? Why all the lies?" "Because I didn't want to lose either of you," he said, and had the audacity to look sorry about it. "Shanice, you and I built a whole life together. You're my partner. I love you. But Jasmine, when I met you at that pharmaceutical conference in 2014, it felt like a second chance, a fresh start. And when you got pregnant with Destiny, I couldn't walk away. I couldn't abandon my child." "But you could abandon your wife?" I screamed. "You could lie to me every single day? You could let me go through IVF, crying myself to sleep because I couldn't have your baby, while you were here making babies with her?" That shut him up. Jasmine's head snapped up. What did she say about IVF? I went through 3 rounds of in vitro fertilization between 2012 and 2014, I said, my voice shaking. We spent $45,000 trying to have a baby. I pumped my body full of hormones. I got my hopes up and had them crushed 3 times. I cried for weeks after each failure. And the whole time, Darnell was telling me it was okay, that we didn't need kids to be happy, that I was enough for him. Meanwhile, he was here getting you pregnant. Not once, but twice. Jasmine looked at Darnell with something like horror in her eyes. You told me you were infertile. You said the doctors had told you it was impossible for you to have biological children. You said Destiny and Cameron were miracles. You said God had blessed us. Oh my God. I'm the one who's infertile, I said slowly, the pieces clicking into place. I'm the one who can't have children. He told you he couldn't, so you'd think the kids were special. He told me we couldn't together, so I wouldn't question why we stopped trying after the IVF failed. The lies were so intricate, so carefully constructed. He'd told each of us exactly what we needed to hear to keep us from asking questions. We sat there in that living room, me, Jasmine, and Darnell, while the truth settled over us like a shroud. Jasmine was still crying. I was beyond tears at this point, just numb. Darnell looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. From upstairs, I could hear Cameron starting to fuss. He'd been napping, probably, and was waking up. I need to get him, Jasmine said mechanically, standing up. She looked at me. Do you want to see them? Your husband's children? The ones he had with me while telling you he didn't want kids? There was venom in her voice, but it wasn't directed at me. We both knew who the real enemy was. Yes, I said, I do. So she led me upstairs, leaving Darnell sitting alone in the living room, with his lies crashing down around him. Cameron's nursery was painted a soft blue with clouds on the ceiling. There were toys everywhere, a changing table stocked with diapers and wipes, a rocking chair by the window. It looked like every parent's dream nursery. Cameron was standing in his crib, holding onto the rail, his face red from crying. When he saw Jasmine, he reached for her. Mama, she picked him up, holding him close, breathing in that baby smell that mothers love. Then she turned so I could see him properly. He was beautiful. Chubby cheeks, big brown eyes, a smile that showed his tiny teeth. He looked so much like Darnell it hurt. This is Cameron, Jasmine said quietly. He's 14 months old. He just started walking last month. His favorite food is mac and cheese. He loves Daniel Tiger. He calls Darnell Dada. Destiny appeared in the doorway then, still in her church dress, looking uncertain. Mommy, are we still going to church? Jasmine's face crumpled. No, baby. Not today. I know what I said, Destiny, but we're not going today. Sometimes plans change. Destiny's bottom lip trembled. She was 4 years old, and she could tell something was very wrong, even if she didn't understand what. Is Daddy in trouble? She asked in a small voice. Jasmine's eyes filled with fresh tears. Yes, baby. Daddy's in a lot of trouble. We went back downstairs. Destiny ran to Darnell, climbing into his lap, seeking comfort from the one person she trusted most. He held her, and I could see real pain on his face. He loved these kids. That much was clear. It just wasn't enough. Love isn't enough when it's built on lies. What are we going to do? Jasmine asked, looking at me. Not at Darnell, at me. Because we both knew he'd had his chance to make decisions. He'd made his choices, and they were terrible ones. Now it was our turn. We're going to make him pay, I said. And we did. The rest of that day was a blur. Jasmine's mother came to pick up the kids. She told her mom there was a family emergency, which was putting it mildly. Her mother took one look at me, then at Jasmine's tear-stained face, then at Darnell sitting miserably on the couch. And she seemed to understand that something terrible had happened. She took Destiny and Cameron without asking questions, promising to keep them for a few days. Then Jasmine and I sat down at her kitchen table, the kitchen table in the house my husband had bought for his other family, and we talked, really talked, compared notes, timelines, stories. We realized he'd been playing us against each other from the beginning. He'd told her I died in 2013, right before they met. He said it was sudden, a car accident, he'd told her. He was a grieving widower who'd moved to Atlanta for a fresh start, trying to escape the memories. He told me he was traveling more for work, starting in 2014 because of his promotion. More territory to cover, more clients to manage. I believed him because why wouldn't I? He'd never given me a reason not to trust him. Until he did. We pieced together his schedule and realized how meticulously he'd planned everything. He'd fly from LA to Atlanta on Monday mornings, spend the week there, then fly back to LA on Friday nights. The next week, he'd reverse it. Atlanta, Monday through Wednesday. LA, Wednesday through Sunday. He'd arranged his work schedule so that both his company and both of us thought his travel was for business. No one questioned it because pharmaceutical sales reps travel all the time. He'd managed to be at the hospital for Cameron's birth by telling me he had a last-minute work emergency in Atlanta. I'd been upset that he had to leave so suddenly, but I'd understood, or I thought I understood. He'd missed Destiny's 4th birthday party in March because he was stuck in LA for meetings. Jasmine had been upset, but she'd gotten over it. Work is work, she'd said. He juggled 2 entire lives, 2 families, 2 sets of obligations, and he'd done it so smoothly that neither of us had suspected a thing until I saw those Instagram pictures. How did you find out? Jasmine asked at one point. So I told her about Keisha, finding his Instagram account, about the pictures, about following him here, about watching them at Chuck E. Cheese and the park. I'm so sorry, she said, and she meant it. I had no idea. If I'd known you existed, if I'd known he was married. I know, I said. I believe you. We're both victims here. And we were. 2 women who trusted the same man. 2 women who'd been betrayed in the worst possible way. We called lawyers, both of us. Mine was in LA, but I conferenced him in. Jasmine had a family lawyer her sister recommended. The lawyers laid out our options. I could sue for divorce, obviously. And given the circumstances, the infidelity, the secret second family, the financial deception, I'd likely get a very favorable settlement. Jasmine could sue for fraud, emotional distress, and child support. Even though their marriage wasn't legal, those were still his biological children. He had obligations. There's also the matter of bigamy, my lawyer said. What he attempted to do, marrying a second woman while still legally married to his first wife, that's a crime. You could press charges. Darnell, who'd been sitting silently through most of this, finally spoke up. You don't have to do that. I'll give you both whatever you want. Just please don't send me to jail. Please. You don't get to make requests, I said coldly. You lost that right when you decided to live 2 lives. But ultimately, we didn't press criminal charges. Not because he deserved mercy, but because Jasmine didn't want her kids growing up knowing their father was in prison. She wanted them to have some kind of relationship with him, supervised and limited as it might be. I respected that. Those kids didn't ask for any of this. They deserved better than we could give them, but we'd do our best. We did, however, destroy him in every other way we could. First, we emptied the bank accounts, all of them. Every dollar Darnell had saved, every penny in checking, everything. We split it 50-50 between us and moved it to new accounts he couldn't access. Then we called his employer, told them everything. The fake addresses, the false travel claims, the deception. Pfizer has a strict ethics policy. Lying to your employer about your location and circumstances is grounds for immediate termination. He was fired the next day. Then, and this was Jasmine's idea, we posted everything on social media. Every detail, every lie, every text message we could access, every photo, every piece of evidence. We tagged him in all of it. We tagged his family. We tagged his friends. We made sure everyone knew exactly what Darnell Thompson had done. The post went viral, and I mean viral. Hundreds of thousands of shares within the first day. Millions within a week. News stations picked it up. We were on Good Morning America, The View, local news in both LA and Atlanta. Everyone wanted to hear about the man who'd managed to keep two families for almost 5 years. Darnell tried to defend himself at first, posted some long explanation on Facebook about mental health struggles and how he'd made mistakes, but was taking responsibility. Nobody cared. The damage was done. His reputation was destroyed. His mother called me, sobbing, "I'm so sorry for what my son did to you. I don't know how I raised him to be this kind of man." "You didn't raise him to be this," I told her, because it was true. He chose this, all of it. His father called him a disgrace. His siblings stopped speaking to him. His friends abandoned him. He lost everything: his job, his money, his reputation, both of his families. And honestly, I didn't feel bad about it, not even a little bit. I filed for divorce immediately. The proceedings took 8 months, but in the end, I got everything I asked for. The house in View Park, half his pension, 3 years of spousal support, and enough of a settlement that I could live comfortably while I figured out what came next. Jasmine got child support for both kids, a substantial amount that Darnell would be paying until they turned 18. She also got a settlement for emotional distress, not as much as she deserved, but enough. Through all of this, the lawyers, the court dates, the media attention, Jasmine and I stayed in touch. We'd text each other, call each other, support each other through the hardest time of our lives. It was strange, being friends with your husband's other woman. But Jasmine wasn't the other woman. We both were. And we both weren't. We were just two people who'd been lied to by someone we'd trusted. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Jasmine made a decision. She was moving back to Los Angeles. "I'm from Inglewood originally," she explained. "My family's all here, and staying in Atlanta, that house is full of memories I don't want anymore. I need a fresh start." So she came back, sold the house in Cascade Heights, bought a nice apartment in Ladera Heights, enrolled Destiny in kindergarten at a school near her mother's house, and somehow, impossibly, we became real friends. I'd never had kids, never would have kids. But now I had Destiny and Cameron in my life. Jasmine's kids, yes, but they were also the closest thing I'd ever get to having children of my own. I started babysitting sometimes when Jasmine needed a break, taking them to the park, helping with homework, attending school events when Jasmine had to work. Destiny started calling me Miss Shanice, sometimes Auntie Shanice. Cameron, who was too young to understand any of the complicated history, just knew me as someone safe and kind, who gave good hugs. It was healing. In a strange way, being around those kids, helping raise them, even just a little bit, knowing that I was part of their village, part of their support system. They were innocent in all this. They deserved every bit of love we could give them. As for Darnell, last I heard, he was living in a studio apartment in Canoga Park, working as a shift manager at a CVS. His fancy pharmaceutical career was over. No company would hire him after the viral story about his double life. His big dreams of early retirement, of travel, of success, all gone. He had supervised visitation with the kids twice a month. Supervised because Jasmine didn't trust him alone with them. Not after everything. He tried to reach out to me about a year after the divorce was finalized. Sent me an email, a long, rambling thing about how sorry he was, how he'd lost everything, how he wished he could take it all back, how I was the best thing that ever happened to him, and he'd thrown it all away. I read it once, then I deleted it without responding. What was there to say? Sorry doesn't fix what he broke. Sorry doesn't give me back the 4 years he stole with his lies. Sorry doesn't erase the humiliation of finding out my husband had a whole other family. Sorry is just a word. and Darnell's words had proven to be worthless. That was 3 years ago. I'm 39 now, and my life looks completely different than it did. I'm divorced. Single for the first time since I was 24 years old, living in a beautiful condo in Santa Monica, with floor-to-ceiling windows and an ocean view that takes my breath away every morning. I sold the house in View Park. Couldn't stand to be there anymore, in the space where I'd lived so many lies without knowing it. I used the money from the sale, plus my divorce settlement, to buy this place. It's smaller, just 2 bedrooms, but it's all mine. No history, no ghosts. Just me and the sound of the waves. I'm still working at Cedars-Sinai, but I transferred to the pediatric unit. I wanted to be around kids, wanted that energy, that hope, that possibility. It fills something in me that's been empty for a long time. I took up salsa dancing, joined a book club, started going to therapy to work through the trauma of being lied to for years, of having my entire reality shattered in one afternoon. My therapist, Dr. Martinez, says I'm doing remarkably well. "You're one of the strongest people I've ever worked with," she told me last month. "You took an impossible situation and you're building something beautiful from the ashes." I don't always feel strong. Some days I still cry. Some days I still wonder what I did wrong, even though I know the answer is nothing. Some days I still feel the phantom pain of betrayal, like an amputated limb that aches even though it's not there anymore. But most days I'm okay. Good, even. Some days I'm genuinely happy. I'm dating again. Nothing serious yet, but I'm open to it. I went on a date last month with a teacher I met at one of Destiny's school events. He was nice, funny, easy to talk to. We didn't have a second date, but it felt good to put myself out there again. I'm learning to trust again. Learning to believe that not every man is Darnell, that not every relationship will end in betrayal. It's hard. God, it's hard. But I'm trying. Jasmine and I still talk almost every day. She's dating too, a nice guy she met at her gym. He knows the whole story, knows about Darnell and the double life and all of it, and he's still here, still treating her with respect and honesty. "I think I'm falling in love with him," she told me last week over coffee. "That's amazing," I said, and I meant it. "You deserve that. You deserve someone who chooses you, completely and honestly." "So do you," she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "We're survivors, Jasmine and I, sisters in trauma, bound together by the worst thing that ever happened to both of us, but choosing to make something good from it anyway. The kids are thriving. Destiny is 7 now, in 2nd grade, doing well in school. She's smart, funny, resilient. She sees Darnell twice a month and calls him daddy. But she knows the situation is complicated. She knows her family isn't like other families. Cameron is 4, starting pre-K next month. He's a sweet kid, gentle and affectionate, always giving hugs and kisses. He probably won't remember much of these early years, won't remember the chaos of his parents' separation, won't remember the media attention. That's probably for the best. I take them to Disneyland sometimes, just me and them. Jasmine will send them with me for the day, and I'll push them on rides and buy them Mickey ears and eat overpriced churros. It makes me happy. Being Auntie Shanice, being someone they can count on. It's not the motherhood I imagined, but it's what I have, and it's enough. If you're listening to this, if you're in a situation where something feels off, where your partner's behavior doesn't add up, where your gut is screaming that something is wrong, please, I'm begging you, listen to it. Don't ignore the signs like I did for 2 years. Don't make excuses. Don't convince yourself you're being paranoid or dramatic or insecure. Your intuition knows. It always knows. I ignored mine because I didn't want to face the truth, because I was scared of what I might find. because it was easier to live in comfortable delusion than painful reality. But comfortable delusion is still delusion, and eventually, reality will force its way in. You deserve the truth. You deserve honesty. You deserve a partner who chooses you completely, not just when it's convenient. You deserve someone who doesn't have to maintain 2 phones, 2 bank accounts, 2 lives. You deserve someone whose love doesn't require lies to survive. And if you discover you've been betrayed, if you find out the person you trusted most has been lying to you, know that you can survive it. You will survive it. It's going to hurt. God, it's going to hurt worse than anything you've ever felt. There will be days you can't get out of bed, days you can't stop crying, days you wonder if you'll ever feel normal again. But you will. I promise you, you will. On the other side of that pain is freedom, strength, a version of yourself you never knew existed. I found her, the woman I was always meant to be. She was buried under years of lies and betrayal, and settling for less than she deserved. But she was always there, waiting for me to be brave enough to let her out. She's strong. She's independent. She knows her worth. She doesn't accept half-truths or half-measures. She demands honesty and respect, and she walks away from anyone who can't give her that. She's me, the real me, the one who was hidden under 12 years of playing wife to a man who didn't deserve the title of husband. And now I'm free. Free to build the life I actually want instead of the life I thought I was supposed to have. Free to love myself, to prioritize myself, to become the best version of myself. Darnell Thompson took a lot from me. 4 years of my life that I'll never get back. My ability to trust easily. My belief that love is simple and straightforward. But he didn't take everything. He didn't take my strength. He didn't take my resilience. He didn't take my ability to rebuild. And he definitely didn't take my future. That's still mine. All mine. And I'm going to make it beautiful. My name is Shanice Williams. I'm 39 years old. I'm a pediatric nurse, a friend, an auntie to 2 beautiful kids, and a survivor. I'm also the woman who flew across the country to surprise her husband and found him playing daddy to children that weren't hers. It broke me. For a while, it absolutely broke me. But I put myself back together, piece by piece, day by day. And now I'm stronger than I ever was before. If my story helped you in any way, if it made you feel less alone, if it gave you the courage to face your own truth, then it was worth telling. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Tell me your story if you feel comfortable sharing it. Tell me how you survived your own betrayal, your own heartbreak, your own moment of truth. We're all in this together, navigating this messy, complicated, beautiful thing called life. And together, we're stronger than any lie anyone ever told us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for bearing witness to my pain and my healing. Bless you all. And remember, always, always trust your gut. It knows.